Power of the mob in America and nothing short of it. We mean to end their profits, imprison their members, and cripple their organization. Imprison their members and cripple their organization. Imprison their members and cripple their organization. Cripple their organization. Imprison their members.
And I was
break the power of the mob. Our goal is to break the power of the mob in America and nothing short of it. We mean to end their profits, imprison their members, and cripple their organization. Imprison their members and cripple their organization. Cripple their organization. Imprison their members. Break the power of the mob.
All right. What's going on, world? How we doing there, Wayman? Appreciate you coming to check me out, brother. So today I actually want to piggyback off of something that happened on the Roger Report Live. He was talking about, economic nobility and economic motility. I do want to try and wait a few more minutes for some more brothers to come in. But I'm also going to share to the panel because I'd like brothers to come up and actually speak and share our experiences and ask some questions. So the first thing I do want to talk about, I'm going to put the link in the chat to come up, is home ownership in our community. And one of the big ways that we can actually trick the system. So all too often we see many African Americans who own the home and, we get the house and the problem is we can't quite afford the house because we start off buying that single family home that we think is our forever home. The downside to that is when you start off with your forever home, you're hampering yourself from many tax loopholes and advantages that the wealthy take advantage of. So again, this will be one of my 10 cash commandments. And one of them 10 cash commandments is number 4, own 4 doors before you buy yours. So what does that mean, people? What does own 4 doors before you buy yours actually mean? Well, when we look in terms of real estate or real estate investing, you'll hear a lot of people who like to fix and flip, which personally, as a licensed realtor, I don't really like. If I'm going to purchase a property, I'm not going to fix and flip. I'm going to buy and hold. So those are 2 different strategies. But unfortunately, our people like to fix and flip. So you never actually own anything. You buy it, you fix it up, and then you sell it. But what does that do? That means you have to continually buy and sell more properties. They're building more properties, but they're not building more land. So the idea is you purchase a property and you own that property and you rent that property to someone, because everything everywhere will rent. There's always someone who wants to rent. There's always a single mother or an elderly person or a veteran who returned from wartime, all types of things where someone will rent. But the idea is to own. And the easiest way to do that is starting off with those 4 doors. So as you know, there's things called an FHA loan, which many people think is a first-time homebuyers association. And it's actually the Federal Homeowners Authority, FHA, right? So you get an FHA loan, and that means that you only need to put 3.5% down. So what does that mean? That means your house is $100,000, and you only need to put $3,500 down as a down payment, versus the traditional 20%, which would be $20,000 down as a down payment. The disadvantage to an FHA loan is generally you are going to have to live there, and they are going to enforce something called PMI, which is Private Mortgage Insurance. So PMI is there to protect the bank in the event that the person who is receiving the loan defaults on the loan. So it has nothing to do with if you die and nothing to do with if your property is damaged. Those are 3 different insurances. But private mortgage insurance will usually increase the cost of your monthly mortgage payment. It is what it is. The benefit to that, however, is there are tax write-offs for paying certain amounts on your mortgage per year. Now, unfortunately, Donald Trump has cut that down to $10,000, which has made homeownership not look that attractive. But mind you that the tax law changes from Donald Trump are set to only last until 2023. So we're halfway there when it comes to getting rid of some of those tax loopholes that we are finding disadvantageous. So let's take a look at owning 4 doors. So door number 1 is going to be probably attached to the same building that hopefully door number 2 is. The idea is to buy a multifamily, but you don't want to live in any one of those units. You want to hopefully find a multifamily with a basement that is livable. That basement that is livable is where you, the landlord or homeowner, will live. And then you will charge rent to the other 2 or 3 units. Now, what does this do? This gives you a place to live for $0 a month, because likely the income that you are earning from these guys who are renting from you is going to pay above and beyond your mortgage. Now, initially, you're not looking for profit. You're looking to just cover your mortgage. If you get an extra $200 a month off of it, cool. But initially, you want it to just pay entirely the mortgage, the insurances, and the liabilities that you have from owning that property, and give you a place to rest your head for $0 a month. This also now allows you to save up money for your next purchase. You see, it's a trickle-down effect. So now you own 2 doors, and you're also building equity in this property. Now, the ill part is you can actually speed up the process. There's something called an amortization schedule. which I think I'll share with you. But an amortization schedule is something that shows you precisely how much you're paying and how far you're paying down on your mortgage. I have a friend who's a CPA who will advises that most homeowners either sell or refinance their home within the first 10 years, 7 to 10 years of owning that new home. Refinancing is one of the personally worst things you can do because you're restarting a loan at maybe a lower rate, but you're still restarting it. So again, we're not going to refinance. We're going to pre-finance. And how do you pre-finance? So the money that's coming in from those first two doors and the money that you're earning from your regular income. If once a year you make one extra mortgage payment, you'll cut your mortgage payment down almost by 10 years. So if once every 6 months, with the money that you're already earning, and you do have to live somewhere and pay to live somewhere, so let's say you make one extra mortgage payment every 6 months. That's going to knock that mortgage payment and that interest down. Now, you'll also know that a lot of mortgages have prepayment penalty. What does that mean? That means if you pay it off sooner than they have scheduled, because they are intending on making money and earning off of the interest that you're paying, because when you pay a mortgage, you pay interest first. You don't pay the principal until about the final 10 years of that loan. They charge you more because now you're paying more. You're paying the mortgage off faster and not allowing them to earn. So those are two really quick tips. So we're buying a house and we're living in the basement, and that's 2 doors. Now the equity, we've expedited the equity by paying an additional payment into the property. Now we can extract equity after 3 to 5 years from that property and use that as a down payment on another one, or because you fulfilled the requirements of an FHA loan, which is you have to live in the property for 3 to 5 years, you can actually then go and get another FHA loan and put down 3.5%, or that $100,000 house, instead of $20,000, you can put down $3,500 again. Now, yes, you would have to live in it again for another 3 to 5 years. Now, even there are loopholes. Let's look at some of the tax advantage loopholes that are happening today, currently, because of things like the CV in 2020. Well, did you realize that now landlords who had the clause that you couldn't evict because, people lost their jobs due to 19, they can now write that loss that they had to carry, or that income that they had to carry off, as a loss? Because instead of receiving the income as a property owner, you're now having a loss or operating at a loss. Tidbit and trick number 2, and this is actually something else that was mentioned on the Roger Report, is business ownership. Well, once you begin, what's going on, brother? Once you begin owning real estate, you're actually operating as a business. Once you own real estate that you gain rent for. So the moment someone puts $1 in your hand to rent from you, you are now a business owner. You are now a business person. You will now be taxed differently from the Internal Revenue Service because you have a business. That income producing property is a business. But again, that's just the first 2 doors. The idea is to have 4 doors before you buy yours. I'm going to keep reiterating that because that's one of my 10 cash commandments. I took it from Biggie with the 10 crack commandments, and I have 10 commandments that I have put out, and I did them in a white t-shirt. I'm going to do them again in a blue blazer. Well, in a suit and tie. Just because the presentation, it's taken a little more serious than a dude who looks like a dope boy. But have 4 doors before you buy yours. So again, In that 4 doors, you're going to take that equity and live in that property for 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Or if you're savvy and you have family members, you may put that family member in that property and say, hey, why don't you live in this property? And while you're living in this property under my name, you are the family member who's going to take care of this property for me. Now, while I'm living at, whatever else. But the idea is the more doors you own, the higher ability it allows you to get that property that is a liability to not be such a liability. See, a single family home is a liability. And why is it a liability? A single family home depends on your income and your income alone. So I'll give you an example. I have a prior video here of a mortgage pre-approval for me and my wife from 2017, where we were pre-approved for a $940,000 mortgage, basically $1 million, 60 grand off $1 million. I found a property in Brooklyn that was listed at 1.25 million. We got the owner to come down to buy to come down to 950,000. The only reason we didn't close on it is because the owner said, well, once you guys buy it, I want to live here for another 6 months while I go shopping to buy my house. And I was like, bro, I bought it, get the fuck out. So I ended up not closing on that. But because that was a multiple unit building, it wouldn't have been solely on my income. But let's say I found a single family that was $950,000. It's approximately $5,000 a month of a mortgage that I need to pay myself. So what happens if I get sick or injured or COVID comes in? Well, now I'm effed up. But because it was a multifamily, and this is why I say buy 4 doors before you buy yours, because it was a multifamily, had I decided to, what I would do is purchase that property and then let it sit and let the tenants pay my mortgage. A great way to do that is, unfortunately, single mothers with Section 8, because the state pays. I have a question here. It says, it's a good idea to buy farmland in places like Oklahoma and live in a single wide trailer. So farmland, well, I'm a city boy, so you put me on farmland, I'm gonna die. But yes, if you do purchase farmland, farmland is an exquisite thing to own, because farmland in a single wide trailer, if you have your creature comforts there, you're going to be able to make money off of the land, because you're going to be able to cultivate and do things like create, bird feed for people, or cattle, or grow plants, or grow vegetables, and using that land. And with that land, you can then make a boatload, because people like myself, who I can't till land. Like I told you, if you put me in front of some land, it's gonna die. We gonna die. I'm a city boy. I can't. That I wasn't built for that. But somebody like myself will come to you and say, hey, here's X amount of dollars. Give me X amount of vegetables. I need some head of cattle. I don't want to slaughter them. You slaughter them. You're going to slaughter them? Here, I'll pay for you to slaughter them too. But now you're living off the land and you're using it. But for most people who are familiar with creature comforts of inner cities or large metropolitan areas, you're going to want to have, that house with the white picket fence. And in order to get that house with the white picket fence, again, I'm going to say, have 4 doors before you buy yours. Okay, so those 4 doors, again, doesn't have to come in the process of buying a multi-unit property to start with. You can actually buy a single family home as well, but you must make sure it has a livable basement. That's the crux of it. Any property that you have must have a livable basement, because that will then allow you to stay in for a little while and build up that equity. and then the renter or the tenant will be paying your mortgage. So in essence, you're living for free. Then what occurs is when you have those 4 doors and they become an income producing property, because usually, if you're getting a 30-year mortgage, you're expecting not to have equity in that house for the first 7 to 10 years either. So 5-7 years in, you're starting to get equity, and now you're getting a consistent cash flow. You're able to pay your mortgage. You've saved up a lot of money because you're still working, but now your money's coming in from these tenants. So now you go ahead and you take that and you say, okay, I slap it down on another property. And let's say this is your forever home. This is the house you want to raise your wife and kids in. That's great. Now, the benefit of it is it's not solely based on your income, because at this point, you've likely gotten cash flow coming from the properties that you already own, the other 4 doors. So with those 4 doors with those 4 doors bringing income, you can now take that income and help pay down your forever home where you're raising your wife and kids, or where you're keeping your family. Another great idea is a few years ago, I worked with a gentleman from Pakistan whose father was the Donald Trump of Pakistan, meaning he owned most of the real estate in Pakistan. He was worth about 20 million rupees, which is about 5 million American. And what they did was they owned a home in Jamaica Estates, Queens. I'm sure people have heard of Southside Jamaica, Queens. Well, that's the bad side. But if you go to Jamaica Estates, you'll find, unfortunately, not a lot of ADOS blacks, but you will find a lot of blacks there who agree with ADOS people. And what they will do is they will buy a large compound or a large property. They will buy an estate, which is usually, a large plot of land with a large house on it that they can house their entire family. So he lives there with his wife, his kids, his brother, and his brother's wife and kids, his father, his mother, you see, and they all live in this one big house. Now, the idea is that altogether, they also own many other properties. The other properties that they own are in Jamaica, and they are not the best homes, but guess what? Somebody's got to rent it there. And I see here we have a guest coming in. Chaos Rain, how are you today, sir?
Yes, good evening, Blue Blazer. Good evening.
So did you have a statement or a question?
A statement, Jamaica, Queens, would they have Africans or people from the West Indian Islands?
In Jamaica, you have a lot of West Indians.
So I particularly most of Trinidad, Barbados, and Jamaican people overall.
Yes, lots of Trinis. And that's where I got my shark and bake.
Okay.
But yeah, there's lots of Trinis. A lot of Jamaicans. But the Jamaicans are more in Brooklyn. So
yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, you got a lot of Trinis, a lot of Bajans in Jamaica.
Oh, okay, in Jamaica, Queens. Okay, that's the population. In regards to the household, because you said it's better to own or try to get property that's more family oriented, more like 3 bedrooms, or I'm not sure if that's the ratio. Like we have 2 different floors, first floor, second floor, and potentially a 3rd floor. Would that be a feasible route?
Yes. So what it sounds like is you're saying exactly what I'm saying, a multifamily. So the idea is to start with a multifamily. Now that's not always the easiest parameter. So what I generally tell most of my African American first-time homebuyer clients is, if you want that single family house, that's fine, if that's what's feasible and affordable. But you have to make sure it has a couple of things. One is a livable basement. And generally this I speak to single men. For example, if once you got the wife, it's kind of hard to thug it out in the basement. When you got the wife and kids. But when you're a single man and that you're thinking about living your best life or building yourself and living in your purpose. One of the ways to do that is to buy a multifamily or even a single family, thug it out in the basement. What will happen is that unit that's above you, you can charge a little above market rate. Let's say rent is around on average $1,000 a month. Let's say you charge $1,250 a month and you live in the basement. Well, now you're getting, and let's say your mortgage is $1,100 a month. So you're charging $1,250. So that means that you're getting a gain of $150 a month. You're earning simply by renting to that person. Now that extra $150 a month you can pocket, or you can save it up and say, okay, I'm going to add one additional mortgage payment to my mortgage, which will in turn decrease the length of time with which I'm paying the mortgage.
Okay. I see. That makes sense. If I'm trying to get a house or a home for the first time, there are many, how can I say, obstacles most people will go through, especially the credit situation. And I'm not sure if your expertise deals with the credit or any cheat sheets to try to improve one's credit.
Well, let's first of all talk about credit and the barriers that they scare us with.
Okay.
So, number one, you can get a mortgage with zero credit. Okay. Zero credit. Okay. Again, you can get a mortgage with zero credit. I'm going to Google now because I forgot the term. But there's a document that they create, the mortgage banker will create to help you get that mortgage. What is it? Mortgage freak. I forgot what it was called. Let me see here. What is it? Mortgage letter. That's mortgage protection, mortgage payment, mortgage refinance. I can't remember. I'll have to talk to my buddy who's a mortgage banker. But
don't worry. Don't worry. Once you get, you'll review that. And like I said, did I email you? I'm gonna email you Blueberries Club. I'm gonna have you on my little call-in podcast beginning on the first month of January. Trying to hear most of these people. I'm trying to see if I can get in touch. Try to have them on. Not my YouTube show, but there's another platform that I normally do where there's a call number. But I'm trying to situate that now. So if your email is present on the description of your YouTube channel, we appreciate it. If not, I'll grab it here.
I'm just gonna put it in the chat for you guys right now. So those are both my my financial services and my personal email. It's best to reach me to my personal email.
Yeah, correct.
It's direct. It comes right to my cell phone. And that's kind of the way I operate.
Okay.
But in terms of, so there's two things. One, you can actually, there's a mortgage document that they will help using if you have like zero credit. They'll take into account your rent payments, your cell phone payments, your credit card payments, your car insurance payments, whatever you pay monthly for the last 12 months to compile good standings when you're looking at being considered for a mortgage. Number two, you only need a 580 credit score.
Okay.
To qualify for an FHA mortgage. Okay. So many people shouldn't fear you. I'll put it to you like this. I'm a licensed real estate agent in the state of New York, as well as a licensed financial consultant. I see more people when they come to you. It takes more to qualify to rent an apartment than it does to qualify to buy a house. Okay. I have landlords who require a 700 credit score to rent an apartment, where all you need is a 580 credit score to qualify for a mortgage. Another loophole And this is something I call my MAP, which is your mortgage accumulation plan.
Mhm.
People know that we want to buy a house, right? It's not like you just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I'm gonna buy a house tomorrow." Right? This is something people know that they have to save up a down payment for. They know they have to work on their credit for. So if you go and speak to any mortgage banker and ask them if a life insurance policy can be considered as an asset towards their mortgage or towards qualifying for a mortgage, that mortgage banker, that mortgage loan originator will say yes, as long as the policy was in force for at least 2 years and it wasn't solely purchased for the purpose of qualifying for a mortgage. So if I get a life insurance policy that grows at worst case scenario 2% compound interest when JP Morgan Chase currently grows at 0% interest, unless you have a high yield interest bank account,
Mhm.
it would make sense to put it in this life insurance policy because it grows cash value liquid. And it puts me in a position to have that money saved up. American Negro, how we doing, brother? In fact, let me see if I can show this to you guys really quick. I want to see if actually, let me pull up my email. I'm going to pull up an email that I sent to an actual client.
As you do that, I'll jump down, be in the chat room. You could utilize the pinning method on YouTube now instead of putting the StreamYard link. You could
I
pin
did
it.
not know that.
Yes. Now they give you the feature for last month and a half. People could pin it. They don't have to have a certain audience base to do that. They just automatically grant it because they know people put certain links that constantly keep repeating. So what YouTube done, they create the pin thing. So let's say you want StreamYard or your email and stuff, you could just type it, then click on that 3 dots, and it'll give you option remove or pin. So I realize most people, if you don't have much in the chat room, just pin it anyway, and tell people it's right. It's on the pin. Make sure do not delete the pin up above.
Well, I'm not the most tech savvy, so I'm gonna get to that eventually.
Yep.
Let me see. What is this one? Is this the?
But let me jump now. I will come back later if depending. I gotta step out.
Not a problem.
I'll be listening in the chat room. All right.
Not a problem. All right. So, those were actually some wonderful, wonderful questions. I'm not quite sure how to pin yet. I am going to figure that out. But while I'm at it, what I will do is, in case anybody does want to come back up and have a question, I will just toss the link in there again. In the interim, I am going to share my screen to show you a cute little trick here. So this is for an actual client of mine. This is a 30-year-old male. I'm trying to cover his name, but this is a different type of a life insurance policy. So this is an indexed UL, or an indexed universal life. So indexed meaning that it's tied to the S&P 500. And this gentleman wanted to know what $1 million would look like. Is this the $1 million one? Let me see. No, this is a $50,000 one. Let me see what the $1 million one is. Give me 1 second there. Where's the $1 million one? All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to put us on a brief hold.
Our goal is to break the power of the mob in America and nothing short of it. We mean to end their profits, imprison their members, and cripple their organizations.
I guess I'll just do it like this. Come up from the back office. All right, that's good enough for the break. I found I'm going to have to go and actually pull up the actual client. So you guys will get to see that, I guess. So here is, I'm just going to share the entire screen. I'll do specifics later. So here is my back office. And if we go to create an illustration and go to my life design software. I'll log in here. Clients and cases. Yeah, let's do it like this. The blue blazer, cool. Modify. That's a guaranteed renewable. What's this? Jaden. We'll do another one of I. So here we go. Basic illustration. Okay, so we have Blue Blazer as a 35-year-old male. We're going to do an $1 million policy. That's 10 million. Here we go. $1 million policy. We're going to do the percent of target. Okay. We're going to see how much that costs per month. We're going to say that he's a non-tobacco user. And now all of these are different things. The assumed tax rate right now is 6.4%. Okay, so everyone knows what the S&P 500 is. Bear with me. Let me just check here. See comments. Okay. So where are we? So again, this is a growth index. Okay, now there's different ways to fund a policy. So this would not be the way that you fund the policy to buy the house, because this is the percent of target. Now what we're going to do is overfund this policy, right? So this one is going to be $867.50 a month for $1 million worth of life insurance. Now we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at these here numbers, because these are what's important, right? Let me decrease this a little bit. So if you'll see, end of year age, end of year, premium outlay, annual cash flow, annual outlay, net death benefit, net account value, and cash surrender value. If you'll see, there's 3 columns that have each one of these. This guaranteed policy values right here, the first column, is not true. The reason it's guaranteed is this is what the insurance company, no matter what company it is saying that in the event COVID-19 was real and everybody on earth who had a policy with us died at the same time and we had to pay out, then this stands true. Now, this type of policy that I'm talking to you guys about, and this will attach back into home buying momentarily, has an alternative scale because it has different interest rates because it's tied to the S&P. The alternate scale is the floor. So this is if S&P crashed and went down to 0, you're still at a floor of 4.3% compound interest growth. And again, the non-guaranteed, which is what's actually happening right now, but they can't say it's guaranteed because COVID might be real, is at 6.4% compound interest rate per month. Okay, now we're going to go back in here and we're going to change this from percent of target to maximum non-MEC or maximum non-modified endowment contract, meaning you're going to pay the most possible without it being a modified endowment contract, aka a tax shelter, such that Donald Trump used to only pay $750 in taxes. So this is the first one. This is the second one. And same person, same 35-year-old Blue Blazer. This one is $923.30 a month. Now, why is it a little more? Now we're going to go here. Okay. And let's look at this one versus this one. Well, let's see. This one is just the percent of target. And if you'll notice, the first year, the net account value is $6,300, but you paid in $10,410. This one, you paid in $11,080, and first year net account value is $7,023. Right? So, over the course of 10 years, you paid up $104. but yet there's only $80,000 worth of cash surrender value. So that's not attractive. But this is actual liquid cash that if you decided to pull out, you can actually pay on your mortgage. Same scenario here. Now you've paid in $110, and you've got almost $90,000 to pull out, $89,876. So now let's look at if we put in maximum percentage or the maximum amount. Now, if you'll notice here, there's options. You see option A, B, and C. Those have to do with your death benefit. So we're staying at option A because that's a level death benefit. Now, again, remember, this is the $923 premium. This is the $867 premium. Let's see what this premium is. This one is $923.30 as well. So $923 a month, or almost $1,000 a month, will basically get a 35-year-old $1 million worth of life insurance. Okay. Now it's going to vary depending on bells and whistles and things of that nature. So now let's do, instead of GPT, let's do the cash value accumulation test. Let's input the premium. Let's overfund it by $200. So we're going to do $1,200 a month. And let's see what happens. And again, I'm showing you this because each one of these separate manners in which you're funding the policy is going to have a different effect on your cash value or your growth. Okay. Now, remember the other two. So you're paying over the course of 10 years, you paid $144,000 into the policy. Again, just overfunding it by a little bit. Over the course of 10 years on this one, you've paid $110,000. At the end of that 10 years, you only have $89,000 cash value available. On this one, you're only down $10,000, $134,021. But there's a point where it catches up and it starts paying for itself. So let's see, you've paid over the course of 20 years, $288,000. You're 55. This is plausible. But now you have cash value access to $440,388. So in essence, okay, yeah, it took you a while and you were paying for it for a while, but now you're being paid to have the life insurance. Wait, what happened here? Did you notice that the death benefit, right? It stayed level. It's $1 million, it's $1 million, it's $1 million. Boop. Right here. What is this? Year 19? Why is the death benefit $1,039,174? Because now you have too much cash in this policy. You're building cash. You're paying yourself. This is someone asked me about the infinite banking concept. Hopefully he's here so I can show you how to infinitely bank. The reason I don't have a problem giving these concepts willy-nilly is because it's just like a recipe, right? A chef can give you the recipe to the T. Your food will never taste like his because the chef knows what they're doing with it. Okay, no questions? Cool. So now you're being paid. You've paid $288,000, but you've got $440,000 worth of cash. So if you've got that kind of cash available to you, now you can actually pay off that home. Now, again, it balloons. So let's say another 10 years, you've paid in $432,000 and you're 65. Well, now you've got $1,005,000. So approximately $600,000 of cash accumulation. What investment is going to get you $600,000? What money market account is going to get you $600,000? Guaranteed. There is no, it might get you $600,000 like Tesla and Amazon, but it might lose you $600,000 like that. No, this is guaranteed. That's why it's on paper and it projects forward. It's just like an amortization schedule. It's telling you exactly what is going to happen. This isn't what might happen. This is if you pay $14,000 a year over the course of these years, this will happen. So with that being said, that's a great way to build the money, right? You're building your money to be able to purchase your home. Really simply put, it's a cash value accumulation that you can now go to the bank and borrow money from the bank for a house because you have a life insurance policy. In essence, using your life insurance to buy your house. Now, there are also a whole boatload of other clauses and things of that nature with which you can put into your insurance policy to make those provisions. But again, when you're owning those 4 doors, you want to make sure that you protect your investment. So you do need to have things like this set aside to protect that investment. And they will. And you'll be very appreciative of them. So again, I'm going to mention 10 cash commandments. Have 4 doors before you buy yours. It's the simplest and easiest way to make it make sense and to make things happen. So with that, I want to share an amortization schedule, which I'm going to pull up so you can see what that is. What is this? This is an email of some sort. I just got a random email. Let's pull up an amortization schedule. Okay. Because if we're going to go with bankrate.com's amortization schedule. Let me share that with you. Amortization schedule calculator. So this is bankrate.com. So let's say the average house is about $250,000. Right? Mortgage term, 30 years. Term in months, 360. Let's say you get a 4.5 interest rate. Let's calculate that. So your mortgage should be $1,266.71. The total principal paid will be $250,000. The total interest paid will be $206,016.78. If you combine those numbers, you've paid almost $500,000 for a house that was $250,000. You see the trick in home buying and how they beat you in the head? You see, you thought you were only paying this. But if you look, let's show it on the amortization schedule so you can understand it. So, January 2021, you're going to pay in the 1266.71. How much of that goes to your principal? $329. $937 goes to the interest. So your balance is still $249,670.79. But as you notice, interest accrues, so it just keeps growing. So let's go from January 2021 to January 2022. You paid your $1,266. You paid $344 in principal, $922 in interest. So by this point, you've paid $12,000 in interest. But you haven't even paid $5,000 off of your principal balance of $250,000. So it's important that you get this stuff right and exact. Let's continue. Let's go to 2025. Let's go to January 2025. You paid your $1,266.71. Oh, $394 and a penny went to your principal. Your interest, $872. So you paid $44,000 in interest, but your balance from $250,000 is only $200. So you haven't even paid an entire $20,000 on your principal. But everybody wants to buy a house. Nobody wants to buy life insurance. Why in the entire fuck have nobody done an amortization schedule? Because you're getting sold the dream, not the reality. So anyway, it's coming up on 4 p.m. and I want to go get me something to eat. I'm going to drop the link one more time in case anybody wants to come up and say anything or ask any questions. And then I'm going to go get me a quick drink of water. If when I come back, there's nobody here, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I will be doing more of these. Hopefully they'll be more interactive. I understand it does take time and it's hard to pop up with those questions. I shall return shortly.
Our goal is to break the power of the mob in America and nothing short of it. We mean to end their profits, imprison their members, and cripple their organization. Imprison their members and cripple their organization. Cripple their organization.
All right. So I've come back. I don't see anybody's came up. Not a problem. So we're going to go ahead and wind this down. For my final comments, like I said, the most important thing to do if you want to buy a house, and being in the Black community, home buying is not something that is an easy task. So number one, first and foremost, you definitely want to work with a buyer's agent. 98% of the people who purchase a home work with the seller's agent and get screwed. I'll explain to you why. A buyer's agent looks out for your interest. The seller's agent looks out for the seller's interest. So if the house is listed at $100,000 and you tell the seller's agent, hey, I'm willing to pay $125,000, but I'd like for you to start off offering $75,000. The seller's agent is going to go to the seller and say, hey, this dude offered $125,000 for the house. Whereas the buyer's agent, you can say, hey, that house is $100,000. I'm willing to pay $125,000 for it, but I'd like to start at $75,000. That buyer's agent, because he has your best interest at hand, will go to the seller's agent and say, hey, my client wants to purchase this house for $74,500. And then the seller's agent is going to say, GTFOH. And then the buyer's agent will say, okay, my buyer will purchase it for $80,000. And you can negotiate back and forth and save you, the buyer, some money. So one is to work with a buyer's agent. Two is to make sure that you also, while you're working with your realtor, have them working in tandem with your tax advisor or your accountant, because your accountant is going to need to know every step that you're taking and have specific documentation that they can send over to the mortgage banker who will qualify you for that home. And it's easier to just get those documents from your accountant because they have them readily available. And there's no hiccups, there's no years missing, there's no documents missing. Thirdly, when you are working with that mortgage banker and that realtor, you have to be sure that you are realistic in what you want. A lot of people who, when they're shopping for houses prior to the money, a lot of real estate agents won't work with you unless you have what's called a pre-approval. For example, I'm one who, if you don't have a pre-approval, I'll send you a YouTube video of the house, of the walkthrough, and that's about it. Until you show me you have the money and you've signed documentation. But prior to that, most agents won't even really bother to waste their time with you because they work on solely commission. So you want to make sure to have that pre-approval, but be realistic with what you want, because likely the money that you have is not going to get you what you think it's going to get you. It's just, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. People think, well, now that I have $250,000, I want gold chandeliers and marble floors. And no, $250,000 is going to get you that shanty shack. You're going to be there for 30 years, so you can fix it to the way that you want, but it doesn't start off like that. Thirdly, you want to make sure that you get multiple life insurance policies. One, well in advance of purchasing the home, even if you know it's for the purpose of you saving money to purchase a home, because as we know, the current bank accounts grow at 0.00%, or a high interest bank account grows at 0.8%. The last time I checked, the highest was 1.67%, and that was American Express. And those carry high minimums, generally $15,000 to $25,000 minimum balances. So you can put it in a life policy and build to that over time. And as I showed you, over the course of 10 years, it starts paying you for having it, as long as you fund it properly. So, buyer's agent, tax accountant, life insurance agent, attorney. Make sure you get your own closing attorney, because when it comes time to close, you want to make sure that the terms and conditions are favorable for both parties. Your attorney is going to try and make the terms and conditions of that contract as favorable for you as possible. The seller's attorney is going to try and make the terms and conditions of that contract as favorable for the seller as possible. Now, at that point, once it's in the attorney's hands, the real estate agents have nothing to do with it. We're just waiting to get our commissions. But they're going to go back and forth with the terms and conditions. Once those terms and conditions are met, you'll actually come to the closing table and you'll actually sign on the dotted line. You'll be in there for about 3 hours signing some documents. You know, you'll run your title insurance search. Title insurance is another insurance that secures the ownership of the property itself. So it actually shows that you own the house. Okay. But you'll be sitting there for about 3 hours signing the documents that show that you are wanting or closing on this house. And those are the main things that you're going to need. So with that being said, everybody, I appreciate you showing up. You have my info here if you want to book an appointment, because all of the knowledge that I gave you right now is absolutely useless unless you know how to implement it. Most people don't. So with that being said, peace, Black Power, one love, I'm out.
Our goal is to break the power of the mob in America and nothing short of it. We mean to end their profits, imprison their members, and
Cripple their organization.
imprison their members and cripple their organization.
Again, all of those who did watch along, I thank you. All of those who watched back on the replay, I thank you. Make sure that you send this information out to your friends and families. Remember, we got to stay down till we come up. Each one teach one. Black economics, Black power, Black registered independent. You know, I'm pro-Black with mine. I really don't care about anyone else because no one else experiences my experience. I do not discriminate against anyone, but just like the leader of the KKK said, he is not anti-anyone, but he is pro-white. Well, I am not anti-anyone, but I am pro-myself. With that being said, I'm out.
Break the power of the mob